everyone, I hope you're doing well. Let's just start with our another session, and that is related to the introduction of IELTS. Basically, we'd be talking about the two aspects of IELTS writing, that is task 1 and task 2. Without wasting time, let's just move. Actually, the task details of writing task is it is divided into two parts, task 1 and task 2. Task 1 is actually reporting the features of pictorial representation. In a simplified version, you will be given a picture or an illustration which you are supposed to transform or change into sentences. And if we talk about task 2, you have to answer a question and it would be related to general topics. Let's talk about the objectives, that is aim. What are the things or the requirements that we need to follow? You have to complete two tasks in an hour, that is 60 minutes. Task 1 has 1/3 weightage in total writing module. So we have to spend around 20 minutes on it. Task 2, whereas, has 2/3 weightage in writing module. So we have to devote 40 minutes for it. Task 1 demands 150 words response. You can exceed it up to 180 or sometimes 170 even. And to be frank, both on British Council as well as IDP site, you can actually check that there is no upper limit. Task 2, whereas, it demands 250 words response. Let's see types of task 1. We'll today in this video just check in detail task 1. Okay, let's see. The first task is, or type of task 1 is line and polyline graph. Another one is bar chart, then pie chart, then table chart, then flow chart, then process chart, natural or man-made chart, and maps or pictorial representation. Let's move. What are the things that we need to remember? The most important thing is you have to report to it. That means you need to answer it. You have to write at least 150 to 170 words. Please remember, if you write at least, I would say 170 words, it would be good. You'll be penalized if underwritten. That means you cannot write 149 words. That would be wrong. Don't add and write anything from your own. Note down the tense form, that is past, present or future. Here, I don't mean to say that you have to write which tense they are asking. Here I mean to say that you need to write your task in the tense asked. For example, if they are talking about past, you need to write in past tense. Let's move. Be careful about tenses and recheck after writing. You need to proofread. That's really important. And devote maximum 20 minutes because it actually demands you to write on a representation or a picture. So that would be much easier as compared to writing a task 2, that would be an essay, right? Begin every sentence with capital letters. That's important. Leave a line after each paragraph. Start from borderline. That means please follow alignment. For example, if you can see the dots here, these yellow dots, you need to write from here, right? You cannot write from here. Suppose your paragraph stops over here. You cannot start your second paragraph from this G thing. Why? Because it would be penalized, and we are not supposed to write something that's wrong, right? Okay. No contractions, slang, or short forms and abbreviations are to be used. You're not supposed to use don't, can't, won't, shouldn't. That would be wrong. Let's talk about now our task 1 structure. Introduction, we need to write at least one sentence. You need to include what, when, and where. If we talk about overview, you need to write at least 2 sentences. Sorry, I forgot to add this S thing. And in this overview, you need not to mention any figures or numbers. So what can we mention? We can mention overall change, highest and lowest, similarities, big difference, and even trend. The third paragraph can be your first body paragraph. This is also known as detailed paragraph because you can mention the data or the information in detail in these two paragraphs. So the first detailed paragraph and the second detailed paragraph. These are supposed to have at least 3 sentences each. That is, in totality, we can write at least 9 sentences if we check it carefully. Let's move. Let's see. Now, instead of overview, you can write a fourth paragraph. Like you can shift your overview into the fourth paragraph and you can start it as a summary. For example, you can write the appropriate linker. Don't worry, I am trying to prepare a video specifically devoted to linker. I'll be uploading it soon. Let's move. Now, the types of line graph. The first type of line graph that you can see can be a single line graph. If you see it here, it's a magazine sales. It's talking about days in x-axis. It's talking about number of magazines in y-axis. Now what am I talking about? This part of the information is called y-axis if we are talking about a line graph, whereas the vertical part is called an x-axis. Now this part of information should not be there in your overview or summary. Otherwise, we'll be penalized. Let's move. Another type of your task 1 can be a polyline graph, or we can simplify it by saying two-line graph. If you can see it here, there are number of students in our y-axis and there are dates mentioned. Now these two lines actually signify blue line signifies number of students who left the school. Red line signifies number of students who joined the school. Now another polyline graph that we can see it here. It's consumption of fast food by Australian teenagers. There are dates mentioned over here and there are number of times eaten per year. Now if we are talking about fast food, now they are talking about how much it is eaten, right? Pizza, fish and chips, hamburgers. These are divided by coloring them, the lines, right? Let's move. Now another line graph that we can see is cinema attendance in the UK. It's percentage of age group in y-axis and in x-axis we can see years. And surprisingly there are 4 lines instead of just 1. It's age 14 to 24, age 24 to 34, age 34 to 44, age 44 to 54. Now whatever we have seen till now are just types of line graph. Yes, these are just examples of line graph. Let's move. Now what is really important in line graph? Vocabulary. If you're talking about direction, for example, if you're saying it went up, it rose, right? So what are the verbs that we can use? The first verb would be rose. If you want to use the infinitive do is called infinitive in grammar, right? When you're using this word to, you have to mention the data. It rose to, for example, if you're writing rose to 10%, that means it increased to 10%, or went up to, or climbed to. You can even use boomed, grew, climbed, went up, jumped, soared, leapt, surged. Instead of these words, the noun forms are a rise, an increase, growth, an upward trend, a boom, a dramatic rise, grow, climb, go up, jump, soar, leap, and surge. Let's move. If you're talking about decrease or a downfall, what are the words that we can use? So if you remember, we were talking about verbs first. It's fell to, decline to, decrease to, dip to, drop to, went down to, slump to, reduced to, plunged, plummeted. And the noun forms are a decrease, a decline, a fall, a drop, a slump or a dramatic fall, a reduction, plunge or plummet. If we are talking about a line that remains same, so what are the verb forms that we can use? We can write leveled out or at. Leveled out at is generally used when we are saying something remained same at. We have to talk about the data then. Or we can write did not change. Now did is generally used for past. So we have to change it if it is in present or future. Good? Okay. Remain stable, we can use at, remain steady at, stayed constant at, maintain the same level. What are the noun forms that we can use? A leveling out or no change. Let's move. If we are talking about a line that showed differences, that is, sometimes it rose, sometimes it declined, and it continued the same flow, and it's called fluctuation. So what are the verbs we can use? We can say fluctuated, oscillated, waved around. Noun forms are a fluctuation or an oscillation. Let's move. Now, how can we describe the change in degree? So there are two ways to describe the degree of change. One way is adjectives and another one is using adverbs. Let's see the first one. Dramatic. You can use the word change with these words. Okay. Dramatic change, sharp change, huge change, enormous change, steep change, substantial change, considerable change, significant change, marked change, moderate change, slight change, small change, and minimal change. Let's move towards adverbs. Now remember, whenever you are using ly words, you need to use verbs before them. For example, or prior to them. For example, if you are saying that it rose dramatically, you have to write rose first of all and then dramatically. If you write in writing adverbs first and verbs afterwards, that would be considered grammatically incorrect. So we are not supposed to write that. However, we can do that in speaking. In speaking, it is acceptable. Okay, let's move. So, increased dramatically, increased sharply, increased enormously, increased steeply, increased substantially, increased considerably, increased significantly, increased markedly, increased moderately, increased slightly, and increased minimally. Let's move. Now, how can you describe the speed of change? That means if it was fast or slow. So, the words, that is adjectives, that we can use for the speed of change are actually rapid. So you have to use the word change afterwards, okay? Rapid change, quick change, swift change, or you can say change was swift. Sudden change, steady, gradual, slow. Let's move. If we talk about adverbs, the same rule applies. Increased rapidly or decreased rapidly, decreased quickly, increased swiftly, increased suddenly, increased steadily, increased gradually, increased slowly. So if you're saying increase slowly, that is correct. But if you're saying slowly increase, that would be considered incorrect. So keep that in mind. Let's move. Let's see an example over here. A sudden increase in sales during the month of March was witnessed. Sales figures increased suddenly in the month of March. Do you get it? Let's move. Now, how can we express approximation? We use words to express approximation when the point we are trying to describe is between milestones on the graph. For example, if you don't know what is the exact amount of sales, so you can say it is under or it is over or above. So if you're saying it's under, what are the words that we can use? These are just under, well under, roughly, approximately, about, near. There is even near about. Let's move. If you're saying it's above, you can say just, well over, above, little more than, and around. Let's move. Let's move towards our first question that we'll be doing today. It's Dubai Gold Sales 2002. In y-axis, we are writing millions of dirhams. And they are, if you check, they are exceeding up to 400 and they are starting from 0. And if you see in x-axis, these are starting from January till December. Remember one thing, in your picture, there can be information that will not be mentioned in your introduction. So we need to actually pick the same information and paraphrase in our introduction. Let's see how. Now suppose you're writing, the question is, the graph shows estimated gold sales of 2002 in Dubai. So we can write, the line graph illustrates estimated sales figure of gold in Dubai for 12 months. So if you remember, in x-axis it was January to December. Yes. Do you remember that? In 2002 in million of dirhams. So what have we done? We have paraphrased it. Remember, don't copy the same sentence. You'll be penalized if you do that. Let's move. Now, your overview can be written within 2 sentences. You can start your overview with the word overall, or you can start it like this, in an overview. Throughout the year, the figures kept on fluctuating. The most successful period in gold trade was month of March, whereas it suffered a significant downgrade in July. So how many words did we use? 29 words. Very good. Let's move towards our body paragraph 1, or we can even call it a detailed paragraph. Our first sentence starts like this. Sales figures were consistently above 200 million dirhams in the initial months. A sudden change. Now this is our second sentence. Please notice we are writing 3 different type of sentences. That means we are making sure that all 3 sentences look different. They should not look the same. That means if you're writing, you need to follow certain criteria. Your task 1 criteria is different from your task 2 criteria. We'll be discussing about them afterwards. First of all, let's just see our second sentence now. A sudden increase in the month of March was witnessed, where figures rose sharply to 350 million dirhams. Do you notice one thing? Yes, we are using rose and then sharply. Good? Let's move. Third sentence is, between the month of April and July, sales continuously kept falling and reached its lowest level of around 100 million dirhams. And if you notice, we are writing 49 words and as promised, we are writing 3 sentences. You need to check it over. Let's move towards your next paragraph. Our next detailed paragraph starts like this. After following a period of downfall, a recovery in sales was recorded in the month of August, rising from around 100 million dirhams to over 200 million dirhams. Now let's just quickly check our next sentence. This was followed by a drop to approximately 100 million dirhams in September and a jump of 70 million dirhams in following month. We can even write in the following month. Our last sentence is, in the last couple of months, comma, there should be a comma, I'm sorry for this, the sales remained stagnant near to 200 million dirhams. If you remember, we are supposed to use approximation words when we are not sure about the data, if they have not mentioned it exactly. So it's near about, right? So how many sentences are we using? It's 62 words. Remember, please don't write same sort of sentences, and if you can check it here, we are writing all 3 different sentences. These will actually impress the examiner. You need to write mixture of different sort of sentences. I'm here talking about even active, passive sentences. Even you can write compound, simple and complex. I've already made 3 videos on them. You can go and check them out on my channel. Let's move. Now, what are the key factors that you need to follow? Remember, bands will be awarded on the basis of 4 things, that are coherence and cohesion, grammar, it's generally called grammatical range and accuracy. And the next one is lexical resources, that is vocabulary. And the first one in fact is task achievement or the structure. We'll be talking about them in detail, but next time. Thank you so much.